How's everybody feeling? After that amazing keynote, hello, yes? I mean, with Sarah and Christoph and Zane. I mean, Christoph and Zane were like blowing my mind. They're like my two favorite things, chocolate and peanut butter. They're like my Reese's cup. But I'm so excited. I wanted to whip out my laptop and start on my CLI and create my own LWCs. But, you know, I'm an expert because I know all the lingo. But beyond this, so I'm actually with the panel of experts. But I am honored to be hosting the panel of experts here. And let me just introduce everybody. Here I have Ryan Ellis, SVP, Product Marketing Management, Lightning. Dave Carroll, Senior Director and DX. And correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, here we go, Kevin. Kevin Venkatesan, and he is out as a software architect, Lightning Platform. And Dory from Encino and VP of Engineering, both customer and partner. So we're going to get to the nitty gritty. We're going to get behind the scenes. We're going to get detailed level. We're going to get component level, do I dare say, about behind the scenes with Lightning Web Components. So I'd like to start with Ryan and Kevin. So you all have been on this journey for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about how we got to where we are today with Lightning Web Components?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. So this has been a couple-year journey that Kevin and I and many other people here at Salesforce have been on. And it really started with some pain points that we were feeling ourselves. We had been building this huge enterprise application, Lightning Experience. We built the Salesforce mobile app. And those are really great apps. But we also were seeing some developer productivity issues on our own house. And we were finding that it was a little hard to get through certain things, and we were also seeing that performance wasn't where we wanted to be at. And so we started to take a look at the wider web and what was going on there, and saw some really cool stuff. And that inspired us to get started in many like skunk work kinds of ways, and you know, change some hearts and minds internally, and here we are 2 years later with this beautiful new programming model that I think has been really well received, and certainly is being well received by our own development team internally.
Yeah, and you were saying we were feeling those same pain points because we drink our own champagne, yes? So we were on the platform ourselves. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so early on in this process, we sort of landed on a couple of invariants that we thought were very important. The biggest one being just to align with standards. So we lined up with standard JavaScript, standard HTML, standard CSS. And that gave us the ability, not only ourselves to use standard tools and enhance those tools, but also our customers to build with their favorite tools as well.
Yeah, giving them the ability to choose to build how they want to choose. That's always means a lot to developers. Now, Dave, speaking about tools, how is DX fitting into this puzzle? You all have been supporting these innovations. Tell us about this.
Yeah, well, DX is really a couple of different things. It's not just the CLI. I know that kind of bubbles up.
It does.
But it also includes our Visual Studio Code editor.
Yes.
And as you saw from the demos, hopefully, the Visual Studio Code is really central to the experience in developing Lightning components. And so we've been working with the LWC team, building the extensions, making sure that Visual Studio Code has the capabilities to make developing these components fun.
Now, was this collaboration started from the beginning, or was there a time where you then said, oh, we need to come in on this?
No, it didn't start from the beginning, actually. There was an incubation period for LWC. It had to get to a certain point of stability before we start writing kind of external tooling around it. And then by virtue of using Visual Studio Code, you do get the ability to get the modern kind of experience around linting, around running your tests locally and so on.
Right, all those that we saw earlier that Zane had done in her demo.
Absolutely.
Now, Dory, we ready to do this?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, I promised Dory I wouldn't make her cry. I need to know how LWC has changed your life.
Oh, man.
No, we had a great conversation earlier. Now, you have been building on the platform pre-LWC and now in LWC. Tell me about what that experience and that transition.
Yeah, Encino has been built on the Salesforce platform from the very beginning, so starting in 2012. And so, you know, our early work was in Visualforce, you know, those sort of, that initial technology. And then over the past couple of years, as our customers' expectations for responsive single-page applications, that has sort of been the expectation in the market, it caused us to sort of have to look around at a number of third-party frameworks and this sort of, having to evaluate those frameworks and keep up with the different players in the game and coordinate across multiple Scrum teams. That's a lot to keep in motion at any time.
A lot of pieces.
It's a lot of pieces to coordinate. It's a lot of overhead. It's a lot of tooling and all of that sort of stuff. And so being able to take advantage of the expertise we already have in-house in terms of web standards and contemporary JavaScript development, but to then also have all of the goodness of the Salesforce platform with LWC is just really exciting for us.
True game changer, would you not agree?
Absolutely.
Hashtag game changer, yes. And now in this, we talked about the skills, so let's have some real talk about the skills.
Yeah.
What does this mean for Salesforce developers?
Well, I mean, I think that there's a really excellent opportunity here. I think for folks who have been Salesforce developers but maybe haven't worked as much on the client side, LWC is going to be a really great introduction to what's been happening in client-side development the past couple of years, and there's going to be so much to take advantage of by getting into that form of development. But there's so much that Salesforce sort of augments with LWC. There's so much that you get in terms of security, reliability, the goodness of all the rich metadata, all of the APIs that exist with Salesforce. So it's not, I think that LWC doesn't just become yet another JavaScript alternative out there. It becomes a really more powerful opportunity to build rich applications than something that doesn't have the platform behind it.
And as you were saying, for the developers that were, the Salesforce developers that have not been on the front end and now are gaining these skills, I almost think of now, you're triple threat.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I mean, you've got, I mean, you're now getting skills that will serve you well, not only in the Salesforce ecosystem, but outside. Not that we want anybody going outside the Salesforce ecosystem, but I mean, these are game-changing skill sets as well.
Absolutely, and I think what we saw with the demos earlier today was just how quickly you can build really powerful applications because you're marrying all of the data richness and the security and the stability of the platform with a contemporary JavaScript.
And I love the fact that
standards.
You can have it and it's still metadata mindful, right? That drives a lot of productivity right there, right? So,
it's the best of both worlds. Triple threat, 100%.
Triple threat. What are you all thinking about that? What do you say about the skills? What's good for our Salesforce developers?
Well, I think there's another angle to this. And over the years, I've been asked by lots of customers who are considering going onto the platform, partners who are trying to build up a practice, what does the resume look like for the developers that I need to work on this platform? And the answer was always a little bit apologetic. Well, there's HTML and JavaScript, but now, without needing the domain knowledge of Salesforce, anybody who's using React or Vue or any of the modern kind of JavaScript frameworks is a good candidate for your UI development.
Right, and they can come into the ecosystem.
I think opens up the pool of available talent, which has always been a little on the demand side.
Make it a little more inclusive for all developers. Like that.
And to add to that, I mean, one of the things that I loved in the demo that Christoph was giving was that moment where you're Googling something and up comes all this content, and none of that's produced by Salesforce.
Right.
And we all have limited resources. You all have limited resources. This is the world.
Right.
And suddenly the fact that you can actually leverage content that's just broadly available everywhere just makes all of us much more enabled and engaged. And if you are, for example, new to JavaScript, like Trailhead is an amazing resource, and you can take those trails, but then you can go beyond that and take Pluralsight courses and a whole bunch of other stuff and go deep, deep crazy. And the fact that we've now tapped into that, I feel like that has just made all of us, up-leveled.
Absolutely, I agree. I just had a conversation with a gentleman who was saying they are new to the platform, and where do I begin? Where do I begin? He's like, I'm a web developer, and I said, well, it's going to be an easier lift coming in because you're going to see stuff that like, I know this. Oh, this looks similar in JavaScript. I said, but it will serve you well to understand the core. You still need to have that Salesforce knowledge to have a full perspective and understanding, sharing rules and all of that good stuff. So there's still great value in that. Now, let's talk about what is your favorite part of this journey? And I'm going to hit each of you guys with this. What has been your favorite part of this?
I'm a product manager, and so my favorite part is always this moment of being able to actually get your baby out to the market and having it have such an impact with all of you. Just reading things like the blog posts that people have been writing out there. I mean, just go Google Lightning Web Components. There's a lot of love going on right now, and that feels amazing as a person who's been working on this, night and day for a long time. So I love that. But what I really like about it, and when you read these blog posts, you'll see, is that people really understand what this is about and what we were trying to do. And this was, to be very honest, a very controversial thing for us at many times. Oh my God, how are people going to react to us making this change and introducing this new programming model? And we had lots of debates about it. And I feel like this plane has landed pretty well. And if it hasn't, I'm a product manager, so please come tell me so we can make it better for you.
Do you want to share your email address so people can send directly? You want to do that?
I'm rellis@salesforce.com.
Okay.
You can find me anytime.
Transparency right here. Love it. Dave.
Yeah, so I'm going to draw on some experience that I've had in the past, being a developer evangelist for many years on Salesforce platform. My favorite part about LWC is what it does from that perspective is give us relevance to a very broad audience. Before, with Visualforce and even Lightning, it was a little bit of a hard sell to get people excited about developing on the platform. Having modern web component capability not only widens the audience, makes us relevant outside of our own community. It keeps us from playing catch up, and it keeps the developers in the community from maybe stagnating behind where the ball is, or the puck is moving, I guess, with regards to web development. So that's my favorite.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for me, it was a feature that I worked on, so going quite technical. And you saw this demoed earlier, which was that referential integrity.
Hey, yes. Somebody else, who was talked to that was like, referential integrity, yes. Referential integrity,
yeah.
So you got...
Yeah, and so I think that's incredibly powerful and incredibly valuable to developers. And it's the ability really for us to understand when you're writing a component, what are its dependencies? Do you depend on an S object, on a field, on some Apex, on some static resources? For us to know about that, so then we can offer things to you. Things in your IDE and the tooling to tell you that IntelliSense, the autocomplete you saw, to we can validate it when you save to ensure that you get the developer error, not the runtime user error. But also the ability for us to then, after the fact, when your admins get involved, to be sure that, the operations they're doing aren't going to break your components that you've authored.
Right. I mean, my mind was, I'm like, referential integrity just extended to JavaScript? I mean, like, what? Hello? That was huge. Was that just me? Okay. I was feeling that, too. I was feeling that. And the IntelliSense you can get Apex syntax within JavaScript.
Yeah, the fact that we were able to sort of marry those multiple technologies together, the fact that we can bring together, S objects, Apex classes and methods, we can bring in static resources, and a lot of other things come into it as well.
Yeah, it is super exciting, super exciting. So I was getting excited.
I think one of the things that's most exciting for me is, in technology, there is no such thing as future-proofing as much as we might want there to be. But I think that the approach of Lightning Web Components being tied to ECMA standards, and yes. I think that it is as close to future-proof as there is when it comes to client-side technology right now. And as a manager leading teams, that's a relief to me. It's also really exciting to see our developers get excited about being able to apply knowledge that they have from other frameworks, tools that they like using. They've got all of this sort of excitement about JavaScript that now they can sort of layer on with their excitement about Salesforce, and I like seeing them get amped.
You said something that really kind of made me think. As a manager, you're now managing a team with Lightning Web Components aligned to standards. How does that help you as a manager?
I mean, I think that it helps in so many ways, from little things to big things. Like well, I guess it isn't a little thing, but the example of being able to go to Google and to have a number of resources that are available to your team suddenly become exponentially larger. That's, as a manager, that's a lot of training that I don't have to do.
You're like, Google it.
Yeah, exactly. Google's going to know better than I do. Let's jump on that. Being able to take advantage of linting, being able to use the CLI DX tooling, all of those things become accelerators that allow us to take what we know of best practices and apply those to our client-side development.
So when they're like, I can't test it, you're like, yes, you can.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can.
And you know it should have been tested
There's
already.
an extension right there that you can install in VS Code and do it. Yes, you can.
There's one other thing that I should have mentioned. Being, even though I'm a product manager, I still love to code. I do it on the weekends sometimes just for fun, which might be geeky, but it actually is fun.
It is.
Using Lightning Web Components, using these shortcuts for the bindings with the annotations, seeing things wire up behind the scenes and just work is a lot of fun.
It is. It's kind of like magic. You're like, oh, what happens when I use this? And how? I mean, I have the privilege of having Zane on the same team. So I'm like, Zane, how did that one work? She's like, it's magic. And I was like, I'll take it, right? So a lot of
It's magic, but it's magic that's backed by specifications.
There you go. There you go.
You know, speaking of fun, we can't forget about our good friend Internet Explorer 11.
Oh, please do tell about our friend.
So I don't know about you guys, but we still are supporting our good friend IE 11.
How's our good friend doing? I haven't seen him in a while.
Well, Microsoft is doing its best to put her out to pasture, but in the meantime, we still have a big customer base using it, and one of the amazing things I'm so appreciative of the work that the architects here did is that all of this modern goodness all works on IE 11, and you don't have to do anything. It just magically works, and that is amazing. I mean, for people who, I mean, honestly, in the pilot, I was talking to a bunch of people, and many of them didn't know about the capabilities of ECMAScript 6 and beyond because they're like, well, none of that stuff works on IE 11, so I could never even learn that stuff. Like, it wasn't there for me. And now suddenly it's like their candy store is open. And that's been all enabled by this programming model. So I'm really appreciative of them always pushing so hard on that. And that was some hard work, let me tell you. But they can tell you better than me.
I see them over there like, yes, it was.
Yeah, and
so,
that's sort of a first in industry that you've been able to author ES 6, 7, and 8, and it just sort of work, and it to work performantly. And so I have to do a special call to Kerdia and Diego, so the brains behind making that work across the board, and the core team that developed LWC, of being able to do that. So as a developer, you don't have to worry about that. You get to use the latest things, and it just works, and it works well.
Yes, give it up for the team here. Give it up. Now I'm going to get into a few hard questions. Now these have been easy, and we're all talking about what we love and what's good. Now let's get some real talk. So, question, why did you decide, this is to you, Kevin, to build LWC instead of adopting a framework like React?
That is a great question, and it's a question that we've heard before as well from our community. And the answer to that is there's a lot of great frameworks out there. There are frameworks like you mentioned React, there's Vue, there's Aurelia, there's a lot of really great stuff. And we've worked with a lot of those maintainers, have good relationships with them, and everyone's solving different types of problems. But a unique problem that Salesforce has is that we have to address the enterprise market. We're building a platform that's got to work for the long term, meaning that as a developer, you can build on us, and your code will work not just today, and in 5 years, and in 10 years from now. And that's unique to us, being able to, needing to solve rather those enterprise-grade problems. So for us, lining up with sort of the larger web platform and those standards gives us that capability to be backwards compatible and also forward-looking.
Okay, great. What about, do I need to rewrite any Aura components?
I guess I'll take that.
I was hoping you would.
Right.
I was serving it to you.
I mean, we all watched it, as Christoph was showing us, and one of the things we worked hard on was interoperability.
Yes.
And you know, we looked in the past and we saw how, for example, Apple did interoperability between Objective-C and Swift, and that seemed to work pretty well for them. And we wanted to provide a similar sort of on-ramp for people with LWC. We know, and our own selves, for example, looking at it, we weren't going to rewrite everything like day one. That was never going to happen. That would be such a huge lift and shift. And so we wanted to create something that was gradual, where you could pick and choose the projects that made sense for you. You could do new development using LWC. You could find, you know, sweet spots where maybe you wanted to find that performance boost and go in there and refactor that. And otherwise, just allow it to all work together. And really, Sarah just very briefly mentioned it, the Lightning event service that we have coming in the roadmap is actually about going that even a step further. Right? We have a large family of UI frameworks. We have a ton of Visualforce out there. People are using Canvas, Lightning Container Components, all these different technologies. And we want to allow those things to be able to work very, very smoothly together. It should be completely transparent to the end user, ideally even to the admin themselves. And so that's what we were able to accomplish with LWC and Aura, and look forward to the future. We'll have more of that with other frameworks as well.
Now, and you were talking about aligning to the standards, and this is probably as future-proofing as possible, right? But how long do you think we'll be here before we're off to the next thing? What does your magic crystal ball say?
Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
Sure. I think because we lined up with web components specifically, all the browser vendors are on it, and the web platform specifically matures in a very particular way. And one of the core invariants of JavaScript and a lot of these committees that work on that type of language capability is about backwards compatibility. That's sort of the initial position that these committees take, which is we can't break what's already out there.
Right.
Don't break the web.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the fact that we're participating actively in these committees helps keep us as future-proof as you could be.
As future-proof as possible.
Yeah, and we're also now starting to work with the various browser vendors because they're looking at specifically what we're trying to accomplish, what our customers, our partners are trying to accomplish, and those are rich use cases for them that they're looking forward to. How should they be evolving their browser capabilities? And in many ways, we're able to help shape that conversation. And that's really how we look to move forward, is continuing to align with those standards, with those browser vendors, and taking advantage of all of the rich capabilities as they come out.
Right. All right. At this point, do we want to take questions from the audience? Q&A. Is there a mic? No Q&A? Oh, they're over here? There. Oh, they're pointing everywhere. I don't know. Oh, here we are. Any questions? One right here. Thank you.
Thank you. We saw a lot of
Hi, who are you?
Hi, I'm Bonnie.
Yeah.
Good
Yes,
to see
please
you guys.
stand up, Miss Bonnie.
Goodness. Y'all didn't tell me I had to stand up. Okay, you showed us some really cool code. It looks awesome. I can't wait to start. And then I thought, hey, wait a minute. I didn't see the CSS. Where's the CSS? Where'd the styling happen?
Sure. The styling's there. So along with in a given component, so you've got an HTML file with a template, JavaScript with a class that provides your business logic, and then the corresponding CSS file actually that does the styling for you. And so it's LWC is tightly integrated with the Salesforce Lightning Design System. So you get to use all that existing capability and knowledge that you've already gained.
Lightning component bundles could have up to 8 files in them, right? Lightning web components, minimum of 4, or not a minimum, but up to 4, CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and then, of course, the metadata.
The metadata.
But it's standard CSS.
Can be scoped, it's standard, yeah.
Was there another question right here?
Thank you, Dave.
Can you stand up?
Sorry.
And can you say your name?
Sure. I'm Diego from Velocity. We work like just a couple floors upstairs. I've been bothering these guys, especially Kevin and Diego, for a while. I have like 2 questions, but one is a follow-up of what you just said, the number of files that you can have instead of a Lightning component bundle, the Lightning web component bundle. You said it's up to 4? Or
Yeah, he's wrong. You can actually have many.
You can have many, but
the standard.
You could have
it's
like
a simpler
15 JavaScript files in there if you wanted, for example, to share the JavaScript.
We wouldn't
could I have
recommend
other,
that.
could I have other files that are not necessarily HTML, CSS, or JavaScript?
There's some metadata.
SVGs in there for the icons
SVG
for
file.
Lightning App Builder.
Yeah.
But the key thing about the JavaScript, right, is line up with ES6 classes and modules is sort of organize your code as you'd like. And that's a big departure from where we were, as you know, as we've talked about before, which is you now structure things logically as you sort of more naturally code, as you'd more like to set up your code so it's better testable and so forth.
Yeah.
Let me just clarify. I clearly did not communicate that well. You don't have non-standard files like a design file and some of the other things that we required you in the Lightning bundle. So it's very familiar and flexible, as Ryan says.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely there's the documentation part. You guys have the component library that we would want to also reuse with our components, so like had that documentation there. Is that going to be?
That's coming in the summer release.
That's coming in the summer.
Yeah.
Perfect. And sorry, to my actual question, is a very technical one. Is Shadow DOM coming out right now on this spring 19, or is it more the summer? And what is it planned for? Kevin is looking at me, he's like, I hate you.
We didn't plant him there, I promise, Kevin. We did.
Just like, what is the plan for external CSS with Shadow DOM?
So there's a long, complex answer. The short version of it is we're working through it, and we want to enable on the platform. We've got to line a bunch of things up, though, so that you both have the control, but also the encapsulation, the robustness of how you author your component, so that when it is composed by yourself or by others, you've got that reliability if it's going to work how you expect it to work.
Yeah, but don't expect native Shadow to be enabled anytime soon. We're working with the browser vendors because there are capabilities, for example, around accessibility that are not possible today when a native Shadow is enabled. So we have to work through those things with them. When those types of things land, we'll be letting you know and how we'll be rolling that out.
And hashtag safe harbor. Okay. I have a question.
Hi, I'm Dan. I'd like to hear a little more about browser support, because as we saw when we went through the example on the MDN, it noted that not supported in all browsers, and I'm sure there are many other features. So which browsers, I know you're probably doing some magic behind the scenes to support as many as possible, but do you support as many as in Aura? Are there limitations there? And a little bit of how are you doing that? What's going on behind the scenes? I'd love to hear.
So I'll tell you which ones, and Kevin can talk about how. So we support all the same browsers that Salesforce supports, which includes the latest versions of Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, and IE11. There are classic versions that go lower than that, but if you look at Lightning and Lightning Experience, those are the versions that we support. If you read the documentation, because not everybody upgrades to the latest version of whatever piece of software at any time, basically we support the latest, but many things continue to work at lower versions. If, for example, someone had a bug where it was like specific to Chrome 66, we would probably say, we're not going to fix that. You should upgrade to Chrome 70 because it's a bug in 66. And so that's how we handle that kind of thing. There also are some performance implications to running on lower versions of the browsers, and that will lead to how it works.
Sure, and so we basically do a lot of transpilation of the code. So classes aren't native to ES5, for example. So we do transpilation, and we also then do polyfills to fill in the standard API set that you'd expect from ES6, 7, 8 that's not available in stuff like IE11. I'll then say at this point, we also have linting rules, which you saw demoed earlier. And so we've got a set of the linting rules specifically that you can sort of opt into that flag things, patterns that we know don't work well when we do the transpilation. So if you are targeting IE11 specifically, sort of be wary of those.
On this side? No? Oh, they're here on this side.
Hi, I'm Derek. I'm also, like Diego, I'm also from Velocity. And we are the specialists that love to ask you guys tough questions. So the question about, in your roadmap, about Lightning Out, what exactly is this? And what's the relationship of that with the compiler that you guys are producing to compile LWC to off-platform deployment? We are really interested in this because we have a lot of customer requirement, both on platform and off platform. So those are very keen to us. Thank you.
So specifically the way that Lightning Out or Visualforce or any of the containers that are not supported right this minute work is that you basically create an Aura wrapper. You stick the LWC inside of it, and then you put the Aura component on whatever the page is. So that's the workaround that exists right now. What that is about is being able to take an LWC and just natively plump it in that place instead of having to have the Aura wrapper magic. So that's what's coming out in our summer release. The question about off-core is something that we are still trying to figure out our own timing around. It is something that even actually within Salesforce itself, we don't run everything on exactly the same stack, and there's many teams that would like to be able to use LWC for their development. So I don't have a timing for you yet on that, but it would be cool. Like, could I get a show of hands? Like, how many of you would be interested in being able to run LWC when we say off core? It means off of, say, the normal Lightning experience stack. Like maybe you wanted to run it on top of like a Heroku app. How many of you are interested in that? Seems like a good number of you are. Okay. You are. Cool. Thank you.
So do you still need to use the compiler to use the Lightning out kind of feature? Do we still need to use the? No. Okay.
So, it's handled by us.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. We'd love to know more if possible.
Okay. And I take a velocity here. No. Another one. Another one. Y'all roll deep. Jeez. I don't stand up.
Hi, this is Frank. I guess my question is, how is the Lightning Web Component work with the mobile SDK off platform? And also, what's going to be the kind of the workflow? Because today we want to support web components. Mm-hmm. So is it, so when we are editing our, when customer augment our web components, do you see a path they have to do in original kind of Lightning Web Components and then transpile into web components, and or you see they can kind of working on the pure web components, and then kind of originate back to the original one. So yeah, first mobile as.
I'll answer the first question. Kevin's going to answer the second one. So the first question is, does it work in the mobile SDK? And the answer is no. We don't support Lightning components, actually the Aura version or the LWC version in the mobile SDK. And really the reason for this is because with the mobile SDK, you put it inside of another application container, and then that thing could be all sorts of crazy things. And at one point, we kind of supported this, and we saw that customers would constantly run into all sorts of dead ends that were of their own making. And often this was like through big consulting engagements, and they would be really pissed off about this. And so we came back and we augmented our notes to basically say we don't support using these technologies inside of mobile SDK. We don't use it. You can't use it in say Chromium, like an Electron app, things like that. Those are all not use cases that we support because we essentially can't test that entire surface area. So we don't do that today. But I guess I'll ask the same question. Who's interested in Lightning components in mobile SDK? Okay, it's more of a velocity problem at the end.
That one didn't quite win.
And then the second question, Kevin will help us with.
And what was the second question?
They want to know how to make a raw web component out of.
Yeah, and so the thing to do there is probably just to reach out to us, and we'll sort of give you access to some of those capabilities that we're trying to figure out. And that goes to your comment about like off-core, like outside of Salesforce, how do you author an LWC and produce native web components, and how do you interop them with other authored web components in a different framework, and how we bring those together in a reliable way. So we're working through it.
Great. I think I'm going to have one. Oh, we have one more. Okay, yes.
Hi, I was excited to hear about the Lightning Events service, and I wondered if you could expound on that. Specifically, does it include non-browser events like platform events, that type of thing, or is it strictly like an in-browser event?
It's about browser events. So what some people will do, though, is you can marry together, say, a platform event coming from the server side, and then maybe replaying it across using, say, a thing like this. So if you are familiar with Aura, we have a thing called application events in Aura. That had a lot of drawbacks to it. What this is a sort of framework agnostic approach to this that addresses a lot of the drawbacks that existed with application events. So this mechanism is the way that you're going to actually be able to communicate between two Lightning Web Components, between a Lightning Web Component and an Aura component, between an Aura component and a Visualforce page, et cetera, all of the different ways. You saw probably in the demo we had this pub sub thing that was going on. Mm-hmm. That was a small bit of JavaScript code that we wrote and included in the app. But that was code we had to write. So now you don't have to write that at all. It will become a part of the platform that you can just use.
Yep, and to gain access to your question around platform events, there's an existing component in Aura, which you can use Lightning EMP API, which will allow you to subscribe to platform events.
Yeah. Great. Yep, one more here.
Hi, I'm Sajay. I'm from Zora. Kind of just perhaps like a cherry on the top type thing. You guys are talking about, like what's in the future, right? So web components is great. It's W3C standard and all that. So I was just kind of wondering, what's on the roadmap for WebAssembly for Salesforce? Which is also like a W3C standard as well.
We haven't been talking about it a lot. Do you want to say anything about it?
It's something for us to evaluate. If you've got particular use cases, we should talk about them to understand what they are. Yeah, I'd be really curious to understand your use case and what you're trying to do where sort of what we're doing today doesn't fulfill that.
All right. Oh. One more.
Hi, I'm Pat from Proton 7 Group. I'm a VS Code user and a Salesforce DX user. Thank you very much for those tools. However, I don't feel like I'm a power user, and there aren't any good trails about them. So this is kind of a request for Trailhead to develop, and I know they look to the product groups for this, but we need more courses about VS Code on Trailhead so that we can all be doing the cool things that Zane was showing. How to use the debugger tools, how to use the tests. So
I might make sure we're getting that right here. That's that.
Monday, they're on there on Monday?
So in case it couldn't be heard on the recording.
So you just made that happen.
Yeah. We have 4 new trailheads coming out.
4 new trails.
4 new trails, not trailheads. Coming out on Monday around VS Code and the stuff that we've been talking about. I hear you about power user. We don't have Trailhead about becoming a power user on VS Code. Maybe we should. That'd be good feedback. We tend to center it around our extensions and how to use them in VS Code.
And you've been using it, Pat?
I have, but any of the training on VS Code doesn't really talk about Salesforce.
Right.
And the Salesforce training doesn't really talk about VS Code much, so.
Great feedback, thank you.
I'll talk to you soon. And we have one more back here. I think this is our last question, last one.
My name's Dennis. Thanks for having this event. I'm a beginning student of MuleSoft, which your company recently acquired, and I don't see any obvious connection between Lightning Web Components and the MuleSoft, but I could be missing something. Is there a connection between those two technologies?
There can be an integration between those two. Oh, that one.
I mean, I guess what I would say there is that MuleSoft is an amazing set of tools for doing integration, and a lot of that integration is on the data side of the house. So this is a great way for you to be pulling data from a million different sources and then surfacing it through a UI using Lightning Web Components. So that's kind of
an indirect way. All right. Are you saying something or asking? Okay. I'll make an exception.
I had a
Who are you? Who are you?
Oh, Scott Yancey, Salesforce.com.
Okay.
I heard a rumor that there's about a 3 Musketeer group that were the lead architects on this program, Kevin, and I was wondering if the other 2 could stand up and maybe show the crowd who they are. Carrie?
Yes, please do.
Thank you.
Well, with that, I want to thank you both for sharing. Thank you. Thank you both. And thank this amazing panel of experts. And please, they'll be here afterward. I'm just assuming I'm planning your time for you. So you can go those deep questions with Velocity over there. But thank you for sharing your knowledge and really giving insight behind the scenes. And I'm really excited to see where we go next and where you all are going to take this. It's an exciting time. So jump in, do the quick start. If you haven't done that, get that badge, and stay tuned for the new ones coming out Monday. All right. Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you.